The Blackwell estate glittered beneath the late afternoon sun, every marble column and crystal window a testament to wealth. Inside, the grand living room echoed with silence, the kind of silence that had hung heavy in the house for years. That silence was broken by the soft murmur of a woman's voice. "Bonjour, Oliver." Comment ça va? Luana Santos knelt on the Persian rug, her dark curls falling over her shoulder as she smiled gently at the 7-year-old boy seated cross-legged before her. Oliver Blackwell's bright blue eyes flicked toward her, curious, hesitant. He did not answer, but his fingers traced invisible letters on the air. Luana coaxed again, patient as always. "It's okay, querido. Try, just one word." A beat passed, then soft as a whisper, "Bien." Luana's heart leapt. A single word, but a victory as grand as any. She grinned, clapping her hands softly. "Yes, bien. That's French, Oliver. You did it." But the moment of triumph shattered like glass under the sudden sharp voice from behind. What is going on here? Luana froze. Oliver shrank into himself, his hands fluttering anxiously. Slowly, Luana rose to her feet. Victoria Blackwell stood in the doorway, diamonds flashing at her throat, her posture radiating authority. Her eyes swept the scene, her silent son, the maid, kneeling before him, the notebook filled with scribbles of foreign alphabets. A cold laugh escaped her. "Tell me I'm not seeing this. My housekeeper, teaching my son." Her heels clicked against the marble as she strode into the room. She snatched the notebook from the floor, flipping through the pages covered in Spanish verbs, French greetings, bits of German phrases. Her lip curled. This is absurd. He doesn't need this nonsense. He doesn't even speak English properly, and you're filling his head with gibberish. Luana's hands shook, but she forced herself to meet Victoria's icy gaze. He understands more than you think. He can learn, he is learning. Victoria's laugh was sharper this time, laced with cruelty. "Do you honestly believe you, a maid, know better than doctors, than specialists? He is autistic. He will never be like other children. Accept that and stop giving him false hope." The words pierced the room like a knife. Oliver whimpered softly, curling tighter into himself. Luana instinctively reached for him, but Victoria's glare stopped her cold. "Stay away from him." Luana's throat tightened. She wanted to cry, to shout, but she stood her ground. "With respect, ma'am." He just spoke. He said, "Bien." He can learn. He just needs patience. Victoria's eyes narrowed. She turned sharply toward the staff lingering at the edges of the room, Sandra among them, smirking faintly at the spectacle. "Did you hear her? Our housekeeper thinks she's a teacher now. What's next? Will she cure him with lullabies? Will she turn him into a genius with bedtime stories?" Laughter rippled through a few of the servants, cruel and mocking. Luana's cheeks burned, but she refused to bow her head. She bent down once more, whispering gently to Oliver. "It's okay, querido. Don't be afraid. You are smart, smarter than they know." Victoria's voice cracked like a whip. "Enough. If I ever catch you filling his head with this foolishness again, you will be out of this house before the hour ends. Do you understand?" The room held its breath. Oliver clutched the crescent-shaped charm on his shirt collar, his lips moving soundlessly. Luana straightened slowly, her eyes glistening but unbroken. She nodded once silently. Victoria tossed the notebook onto the floor, its pages scattering like broken wings. Then she turned and swept from the room, her heels echoing like a gavel of judgment. Silence fell again. But this time it was different, because Oliver Blackwell had spoken his first word in years, and Luana Santos knew with every beat of her heart that it was only the beginning. Long before she polished the Blackwell's marble floors, Luana Santos had stood at a university lectern. She was 27, a rising star in linguistics, her name already whispered in academic circles for her groundbreaking thesis on multilingual cognition. Languages were her gift, her passion, her very breath. But passion didn't pay medical bills. Her mother's sudden illness in São Paulo had devoured her savings, and her younger siblings still needed school fees. When the position at the Blackwell estate opened, it was meant to be temporary, just until she could steady her family again. 1 year became 2. 2 became 5. Her books gathered dust, but she never stopped carrying words in her heart. In the Blackwell household, she was seen as nothing more than the maid. Except to one person, Oliver. From the first day, the boy had fascinated her. At 7 years old, Oliver Blackwell barely spoke. Doctors labeled him autistic, low-functioning, destined to struggle. Victoria accepted those verdicts as gospel, throwing money at therapies while keeping her son hidden from public eyes. But Luana saw something the specialists missed. She noticed the way Oliver's eyes followed her lips when she hummed in Portuguese. How his fingers traced letters in the condensation on the window pane. How he rearranged his toys into patterns that mirrored the rhythms of words he had never spoken aloud. Most of all, she recognized the spark, the unmistakable hunger of a mind reaching outward. So one quiet afternoon, she had tried a single word in Spanish. Hola. Oliver didn't answer, but he smiled. And from then on, every stolen moment between chores became a lesson, a word here, a phrase there, always gentle, always patient. He absorbed them like rain into dry earth. Victoria Blackwell, by contrast, was a woman carved from ice. Born into wealth, married into more, she carried herself as though every chandelier in Chicago had been hung solely to illuminate her. For her appearances were everything. Her charity galas filled magazines, her designer gowns commanded whispers. But in her private life, her patience was thin as glass. She considered Oliver's silence a stain, something to be hidden, corrected, controlled. And Luana, a servant, an employee whose place was in the background, unseen, unheard. Victoria had never asked about Luana's past, never cared to know the degrees hanging in storage, the journal articles published under her name. To her, a uniform and a paycheck defined a person. Oliver, however, cared little for uniforms or pedigrees. He simply knew that when Luana entered a room, the air felt lighter. She never forced him to speak, never pushed him into the spotlight. She simply offered words like gifts, laying them gently in his world, until he decided to pick them up. For Oliver, Luana was not the maid. She was the first person who saw him as more than a diagnosis. Still, Luana had been careful. She knew the risks. She knew that if Victoria discovered what she was doing, everything could be torn away in an instant. And yet, she couldn't stop. Because every time Oliver whispered a new word, hola, bonjour, danke, she glimpsed not just possibility, but destiny. What Luana didn't know was that destiny was already shifting. Because Victoria had seen enough in that living room to unleash a storm that would either destroy Luana or reveal the truth she had buried beneath years of silence. The Blackwell dining hall shimmered under candlelight that evening, every crystal and polished fork aligned with military precision. Yet beneath the gleam, tension coiled sharp as wire. Victoria Blackwell sat at the head of the table, her posture immaculate, her glass of Bordeaux untouched. Across from her, Luana kept her eyes lowered, folding napkins, careful, invisible. Oliver sat quietly between them, fingers twitching against his plate lips, moving soundlessly, as though reciting words only he could hear. Victoria's voice cut through the stillness like a knife. From this day forward, you will not engage my son in your experiments. Luana froze, napkin in hand. Her throat tightened. Mrs. Blackwell, I only enough. Victoria's tone sharpened. You are here to clean, to cook, to serve. Nothing more. You will not fill his head with your little games. If you do, you will be dismissed. Do I make myself clear? Her words echoed off marble and glass. Oliver flinched, dropping his fork with a clang. Luana's chest ached, but she bowed her head. Yes, ma'am. From the corner, Sandra watched her smirk, barely concealed. The older maid had long resented Luana's quiet grace, the way Oliver clung to her instead of anyone else. Tonight, she saw opportunity glimmering like gold. Later in the servants' quarters, Sandra's voice dripped with false sympathy. You shouldn't have pushed her. Victoria won't forgive that. Luana kept folding laundry, her hands trembling only slightly. He's learning. You saw it, Sandra. He spoke. Sandra chuckled sharp and cruel. Children like him mimic sounds. It's nothing. Stop imagining you're some kind of miracle worker. You'll only lose your job. But deep down, Sandra's jealousy festered. If Luana fell, perhaps she could climb. Days passed in strained silence. Victoria enforced her decree with icy vigilance. Whenever Luana entered a room, Victoria's eyes followed cold and accusing. Yet Oliver sought her still. He left his toys arranged in sequences of letters. He slipped her scraps of paper with symbols scrawled in shaky hands, Korean characters, Italian phrases, snatches of Portuguese he had overheard. Luana's heart broke. He wanted to learn. He needed it. One afternoon, when the house was quiet and Victoria was out at a luncheon, Oliver tugged Luana's sleeve, pulling her toward the library. His eyes sparkled with urgency. He pointed to a globe, spinning it with his small hands. Then, with a whisper, barely audible, mundo, the Portuguese word for world. Tears burned behind Luana's eyes. She knelt, cupping his hands. Yes, querido. Mundo. The world is yours. For the next hour, they whispered words across continents. Bonjour, hello, gracias, konnichiwa. Oliver repeated them all, his confidence growing, his eyes shining. But the moment shattered with the slam of the library door. Victoria stood there, her face pale with fury, her diamonds catching the afternoon sun like shards of ice. Sandra lingered behind her arms, crossed satisfaction painted across her smile. So this is how you repay my generosity, Victoria hissed. Defying me in my own house, filling my son's head with nonsense while I am away. Luana rose slowly, her hands trembling. He's not broken, ma'am. He's gifted. He just needs someone to believe in him. Victoria's laugh rang hollow, bitter. Gifted? Do you hear yourself? He is a burden, and you are a maid. Do not confuse your place. Oliver whimpered, clutching at Luana's skirt. His small voice quivered. No. Mama, no. The words sliced the air like thunder. Not Mama for Victoria, but for Luana. Gasps rippled from the doorway where servants had gathered. Victoria's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed into rage. Pack your things. You're finished here. Luana's breath caught. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Sandra's smirk widened as she stepped forward, as if savoring the fall. But in that moment, a new voice entered the storm. Deep, calm, measured. What is going on here? It was Dr. Marcus Chun, the family's pediatrician, arriving for Oliver's scheduled checkup. He looked from Victoria's flushed face to Luana's trembling frame, then down at the boy clinging desperately to her. The truth hung heavy in the silence, waiting to detonate. The library air was thick with tension, sunlight filtering through tall windows like judgment. Oliver clung to Luana's skirt, his small frame trembling, his wide eyes darting between his mother and the woman who had given him words. Dr. Marcus Chun set his medical bag on the polished table, his calm gaze sweeping the room. His voice was steady, but sharp enough to cut through the silence. Someone explain. Now. Victoria straightened, smoothing her silk blouse with trembling hands. Her diamond bracelet caught the light as she gestured dismissively toward Luana. This maid has been filling Oliver's head with nonsense, defying my orders. I told her not to meddle, and yet here she is pretending she's a teacher. It's dangerous, irresponsible. Sandra nodded eagerly behind her lips, curled in satisfaction. Luana's voice wavered, but she forced it forward. He spoke today. He said words in 4 languages. He is not broken. He is learning. Dr. Chun crouched, bringing himself eye level with Oliver. Is that true, buddy? Can you show me? Oliver hesitated, twisting his fingers' eyes, flicking nervously to his mother. But Luana knelt beside him, whispering gently, It's okay, querido. Show him what you know. Oliver's lips parted. His voice was soft, fragile, but steady. Bonjour. Hola. Danke. Ciao. The words spilled out one after another, perfect accents, no hesitation. The room froze. Sandra's smirk evaporated. Victoria's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering against the floor. Dr. Adastro. Chun's brows lifted in astonishment. His voice hushed. My God. He's been absorbing all of this. Luana nodded, tears shimmering in her eyes. Every day. He remembers everything. He just needed patience. Victoria's face twisted, torn between disbelief and fury. She hissed, her voice shaking. You planted those words. You tricked him into parroting sounds. That isn't intelligence, it's mimicry. Dr. Chun rose slowly, his posture firm. No, Victoria. That is not mimicry. That is comprehension. I've studied children like Oliver for years, and what I just witnessed is extraordinary. The weight of his words settled over the room like a gavel. Victoria shook her head, retreating a step, as though struck. Impossible. He has been silent for years. Every specialist tested him wrong. Marcus interrupted firmly. They measured him against what they thought he couldn't do. Luana saw what he could. All eyes turned to Luana. She lowered her head, her voice trembling but resolute. I never wanted to overstep. I only wanted to give him a chance. He deserves that much. Oliver pressed closer to her side, clutching her arm as though afraid she might vanish. His small voice whispered again, clearer this time in English, Don't go. The words sliced through Victoria like a blade. Her son, her own flesh and blood, begging the maid not to leave. Sandra's eyes darted nervously. The room's tide was shifting, and for once, she found no safety in Victoria's shadow. Dr. Chun folded his arms, his expression unyielding. Victoria, if you remove Luana now, you will rob Oliver of the best chance he has ever had. You've spent years chasing therapies that never worked. Open your eyes. He just spoke not one word, but many. And not in one language. In 4. The silence that followed was unbearable. Victoria's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the table, her carefully constructed world crumbling in front of the very people she sought to impress. For the first time, the cracks in her icy armor showed. Her gaze flicked between Oliver, Luana, and Marcus, her lips trembling with words she couldn't summon. And in that silence, the truth became undeniable. The maid she mocked had unlocked the voice of the son she had nearly given up on. The air in the library vibrated with a tension that could snap at any second. Oliver's voice still seemed to echo his tiny syllables, bonjour, hola, danke, ciao, hanging like thunder long after the sound faded. Victoria's face hardened, her jaw set like marble. She straightened, regaining her practiced poise, though her hands still trembled faintly at her sides. Enough of this circus, she spat, her voice rising. You've tricked him. He's confused. He doesn't understand what he's saying. Dr. Marcus Chun shook his head firmly. You're wrong. He knows exactly what he's saying. Victoria's eyes flashed, fury simmering. You think I'll let a maid and a meddling doctor tell me about my own son? Her words rang cold, but no one in the room moved to support her. Sandra lingered behind her smugness gone, her eyes darting nervously. Luana lowered herself to Oliver's level again, her voice gentle, calm. Querido, do you want to show your mama what else you know? Oliver hesitated, clutching the hem of her dress. Victoria scoffed, folding her arms. This is pointless. But Oliver's lips parted. Slowly, carefully, words began to tumble out. Me llamo Oliver. Ich heiße Oliver. Je m'appelle Oliver. Wo jiao aoli fu. The room gasped. Spanish, German, French, Mandarin. Perfect. Sandra's hand shot to her mouth. A servant at the doorway whispered, He's fluent. Another muttered in 4 languages. Victoria's eyes widened, her mask cracking. Stop it, she whispered hoarsely. Stop this right now. But Oliver's voice grew stronger, his small chest heaving with pride. Grazie. Obrigado. Arigato. Thank you. Tears blurred Luana's vision as she clapped softly, whispering encouragement. That's it, querido. Don't be afraid. The world is in you. Dr. Chun's voice was steady, resonant. Victoria, do you not see this is no accident? This is genius. But Victoria staggered back, her entire body trembling. She shook her head violently. No. No. You're making a fool of me. Everyone will think I failed him. That I didn't see her voice broke the sharp edges, dulling into panic. She wasn't just angry, she was terrified. Daniel Whitmore wasn't there to shield her pride, no entourage to applaud her charity image. Here, in her own house, the truth blazed under golden light. The maid she mocked had given her son a voice. Oliver tugged on Luana's sleeve again. His eyes wide, innocent, piercing, turned to his mother. His next words came in flawless English, clear and undeniable. Mom, I can speak. The room fell utterly silent. Victoria staggered, her back hitting the edge of the table for support. Her lips quivered, her breath shallow. Tears welled at the corners of her eyes, threatening to spill. Sandra whispered hoarsely, he called her Mom. And then he called you Mom too. But no one moved. The world had narrowed to Oliver's small voice and Victoria's breaking heart. Dr. Chun spoke softly, reverently. He didn't just speak languages tonight. He spoke truth. And the truth is, he's capable. Brilliant. More than any of us dared to believe. Victoria's chest heaved. For the first time in years, she had no words. Clara's trembling hand smoothed Oliver's hair, pride, radiating from her like sunlight. Oliver leaned into her embrace, his gaze still fixed on his mother, waiting. The chandeliers above flickered, as if bearing witness. And in that silence, the facade of Victoria Blackwell, the millionaire mother who thought money could buy control, finally shattered. The library seemed to shrink under the weight of silence. Every candle flame quivered, as if the air itself had grown too heavy. Oliver's small chest rose and fell rapidly, his lips trembling as though fighting against years of silence pressing down on him. And then, against all expectation, sound emerged. At first, a single word, faint, fragile. But then, another and another. The words poured from him like a river breaking through a dam. Hola. Bonjour. Guten Tag. Konnichiwa. Ciao. Hola. Namaste. Salam. Shalom. 9 greetings, 9 languages. Clear, distinct, unmistakable. The effect was immediate. The servants at the doorway gasped, covering their mouths. Sandra's smirk vanished, her face draining of color. Dr. Marcus stiffened his eyes, widening in awe. Victoria's wine glass slipped from her hand, crashing against the marble floor, crimson liquid, bleeding across the white stone like a wound. For years, the boy had been silent. For years, doctors had written reports, specialists had delivered verdicts, and his own mother had resigned herself to despair, wrapped in denial. And now, in a single breathtaking moment, Oliver Blackwell shattered every limitation they had chained around him. Victoria stumbled back, her knuckles pressed to her lips. Her voice cracked unsteady as she shook her head violently. No, this can't be real. He doesn't understand what he's saying. He's just repeating sounds. But Oliver was not finished. His small frame straightened, his wide eyes shining with determination. He spoke again, each phrase flowing into the next with effortless precision. Me llamo Oliver. Ich heiße Oliver. Je m'appelle Oliver. Wo jiao ao li fu. The final Mandarin phrase hung in the air like thunder. Dr. Ekeror, Marcus's voice broke the silence, filled with conviction. This is not mimicry. This is comprehension. He knows exactly what he's saying. Whispers spread through the servants. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others shook their heads, as if unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed. Victoria's face twisted, torn between disbelief and fear. Her pride cracked like porcelain. Stop it. Everyone will think I failed him. That I didn't see. Her voice faltered, collapsing into panic. Oliver's gaze shifted from Luana to his mother. For the first time, he looked at her directly, his lips parting with a clarity that pierced every heart in the room. Mom, I can speak. The chandeliers seemed to blaze brighter, casting the boy in a halo of golden light. The words were not only sound, they were truth, undeniable and eternal. Victoria staggered as though struck. Her body trembled, her breath shallow. For the first time, her carefully constructed image shattered, leaving only a mother stripped bare, standing before the miracle she had nearly overlooked. Luana knelt beside Oliver, tears streaming freely down her cheeks. She held him gently, her voice trembling but radiant with pride. Yes, querido. You can speak, and the whole world is listening. The library, once suffocating with silence, now pulsed with the sound of life, the sound of a boy reclaiming his voice, and of a truth too powerful to ever be hidden again. The echoes of Oliver's voice still lingered in the air, as though the marble walls themselves could not release what they had just heard. Victoria stood motionless, her face pale, her body trembling, as if every diamond adorning her frame had turned to ice. Her son, the boy she believed would never speak, had just shattered the silence with 9 tongues of the world. But the storm was far from over. It desalf overnight, of Yarens. Marcus stepped forward, his gaze fixed firmly on Victoria. His voice was calm but resonant, carrying the weight of truth. This is not a trick. This is not mimicry. What you have just witnessed is intelligence, comprehension, brilliance. And it happened because someone finally believed in him. His eyes shifted to Luana. She stood with Oliver still pressed to her side, his small fingers tangled in the fabric of her uniform. Tears glistened on her cheeks, but her posture had changed. She was no longer the timid maid shrinking under judgment. There was strength now, quiet, but undeniable, a light that had always been there, hidden beneath years of silence. Victoria's voice cracked, sharp and brittle. Enough, you. You don't know what you're talking about. She's just a maid. She has no training, no knowledge. She filled his head with tricks, but Luana's voice cut across hers, trembling yet steady. No, Mrs. Blackwell. This is not trickery. This is my life's work. The room froze again. Luana lifted her chin, her dark eyes blazing with a truth too long suppressed. Before I came here, I was not just a housemaid. I was a professor. I earned my doctorate in linguistics. I spent years studying the way minds absorb language. I have taught students written research spoken at conferences. But when my family needed me, I gave it all up. Gasps erupted from the servants at the doorway. Even Sandra, who had worn her smirk like armor, recoiled as if struck. Dr. Marcus nodded, his voice calm but edged with fire. It makes perfect sense. She recognized what none of us did. Oliver doesn't suffer from incapacity. He thrives on languages. He has a gift one the world needs to see. Victoria staggered back a step, her hand clutching the back of a chair for support. Her voice faltered, torn between disbelief and dawning horror. You hid this from me. Luana's tears spilled freely now, but her voice did not waver. No, I never hid anything. You never asked. You never saw me as more than a servant, just as you never saw your son as more than a burden. The words pierced deeper than any blade. Victoria's shoulders sagged, her mask of pride crumbling piece by piece. She looked at Oliver, truly looked at him, and for the first time, she did not see silence or limitation. She saw a boy with eyes alight, with a mind stretching beyond the walls of the mansion, reaching toward the world. Oliver pressed closer to Luana, his voice small, fragile, but clear. Teacher, Mama, don't go. The sound broke Victoria completely. She pressed her hands to her face, sobs racking her body as her diamonds glittered uselessly in the candlelight. The truth was undeniable. The maid she had mocked was a scholar. The son she had pitied was a genius. And the world she had built on wealth and control was collapsing beneath the weight of revelation. The library felt transformed. Just moments ago, it had been a battlefield of words and pride. But now it stood as a sanctuary, where truth could no longer be silenced. The servants who lingered at the doorway held their breath, watching history unfold. Victoria Blackwell sank into the velvet chair behind her, her body trembling, her eyes swollen with tears she could no longer restrain. For years she had prided herself on control, on perfection, on appearances. Yet none of those masks could shield her from the sight of her son clinging to the woman she had dismissed as nothing more than a maid. Luana Santos remained standing, Oliver tucked safely against her side. Her hands shook not from fear this time, but from the enormity of what had been revealed. She had carried her secret quietly buried beneath dust and shame, never imagining it would come to light in such a way. Dr. Marcus broke the silence first. His tone was gentle, almost reverent. Victoria, your son is not just capable. He is extraordinary. The world has been blind to him, as it has been blind to her. But tonight you saw the truth with your own eyes. Victoria lifted her gaze slowly, her face wet with tears. For the first time in her life, she looked fragile, stripped of all armor. Her voice cracked raw and human. Oliver, forgive me. The boy hesitated, his small frame trembling. Then he reached out, placing his tiny hand into hers. His lips parted, and his voice carried like a bell through the silent room. I love you, Mom. The words shattered whatever was left of Victoria's pride. She broke into sobs, clutching her son, as if she could hold back the years of silence with her embrace. The diamonds at her throat glittered uselessly, but her tears glowed brighter than any jewel. Luana stepped back, giving them space. Her own tears slipped freely, but her expression was one of peace. She had fought for this moment, sacrificed her own dreams. And now she witnessed a bond being mended before her eyes. When Victoria finally raised her head again, her eyes turned to Luana. There was no trace of scorn left, only humility. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Stay. Not as a maid. Not anymore. Teach him. Teach them all. Whatever resources you need, I will provide them. The servants gasped softly. Sandra, who had once mocked and whispered, turned her face away, shame burning deep in her cheeks. Luana's hand pressed against her chest, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. That is all I ever wanted, for him to have a chance." Oliver looked up at her, his eyes glowing with pride. Then, as if to seal the promise, his lips formed words once more. This time he spoke not in one language, but in many. "Gracias. Danke. Merci. Xixi. Thank you." The room fell silent, not from disbelief this time, but from reverence. Each word landed like a gift, a declaration that the boy once thought silent had become a voice for the world. Above them, the great chandelier glittered, casting golden light across marble and velvet, illuminating not wealth, but transformation. The broken silence of the Blackwell mansion was gone, replaced by something stronger, brighter. A mother's heart, once hardened, had been broken open. A maid's truth had become undeniable, and a child's voice had turned into a chorus of hope. In that moment, the world seemed to stand still, bearing witness to a miracle.